Hello and welcome back to White Lines Football. Lewis again here today for the next episode of The Club I Love. We're joined today again by Nicó Morales. How you doing?
Doing great, thanks for having me on.
Good, no worries. Thank you for coming on. So Nicó is a Manchester City fan.
Yeah, I'm a pretty passionate Manchester City supporter.
How long have you supported Manchester City?
Since about 2010, which I understand some people may cringe at, but I'm sure we'll delve into the specifics here soon.
Overall then, what's it like being a Man City fan? What's life like?
You know, it's funny because you sort of asked yourself that question, and I've asked myself that question a lot as the years have gone on, you know, being a journalist within the industry and sort of seeing things through a particular lens of supporting sort of a top six club. Because, you know, as an American overseas that received the Premier League, you know, sort of much later in life, as opposed to maybe someone like you or people that, you know, grow up in England, you grow up maybe supporting the team that's closest to you. You know, it's proximity or perhaps, you know, the father or the mother or someone in the family that passes a fandom down to you. But for me, it was really about a choice. It was all up to me as to what I wanted to do. And I guess the main reason that I wanted to be a Manchester City fan is because I didn't know anybody else that was a Manchester City fan at the time. Yeah. Knew a lot of Manchester United fans, and I think that was the biggest thing. I knew a lot of Arsenal fans, but being a Manchester City fan, like you said, going back to the original question, it's been largely good, and that's sort of why I asked myself the question, because I kind of wonder what it's like sometimes to support a team that maybe doesn't have so much success, you know, someone in the mid-table or even past the Premier League and down to the Championship and so on. So it's a good experience because obviously there's a lot of wins and stuff, but you know, it's not all glitz and glory, right?
I'm a Gillingham fan. We're in League One in England, right. And it's obviously cool to sort of follow them home and away and stuff. Like you say, you can't do because you're in America, but at the same time, like you say, you get the choice, and I suppose that's a good thing as well. Pre-2010, what was your sort of following of football before 2010?
I was a general football fan. I think I wasn't near as passionate about it. I would say that I sort of had an interesting experience with football or soccer, as people want to call it over here, growing up, because I was born in the United States, and then my family sort of went back and forth between here and Spain, because we had some family there and we spent some extended time there. So when I was a kid, around 6 or 7 years old, we went to this place in Spain where my uncle lives, called Gijón. We stayed there for an extended period of time, so we started settling, putting down some roots a little bit, and I played for the local club, Sporting Gijón, which I think is still in the Spanish first division. They might have just gotten relegated, actually. I played for their academy, and I was quite good, and then we actually returned to the United States, and when we came back, I enrolled in the local United States soccer thing, but nothing high level, and so I became really frustrated with the talent that was around me. I was pretty much like the only kid on the team that I thought was any good, and so I just sort of got very frustrated and quit for a little bit. So soccer was out of my life for quite a long time, and then sort of high school rolled around. I don't know if you guys use the same terminology over there, but high school, I had a group of friends towards the end of that really enjoyed it, so that passion was sort of reignited towards the end of that. And then a couple of years down the road, college comes around, university comes around, and I have an interest in journalistic aspirations, and then that coincided with football, and then here I am.
Obviously, you say you're a Man City follower for about 7 years now. What is, out of all of the experiences you've had with the club, what's your favourite ever memory? I mean, I'm assuming one sticks out, but I just want to hear it from you. What's your favourite ever memory?
The funny thing is, I think you ask a lot of Manchester City fans about what their favourite memory is over the past couple of years, and the majority of people will say the Aguero moment, and that was a huge moment for me and a lot of other people. But at the same time, I would say really my passion for football and really Manchester City has more been after that, been after they won the title. So it's difficult to pinpoint a specific time, but I would say that it's more recent, almost last year, because, as you may know, we've always drawn Barcelona or some ridiculously good team in the early stages of the Champions League after getting out of the group. Yeah. And so for years and years, we've been knocked out of the group by Barcelona. So this year, beating them 3-1 in the second leg, although, it didn't have a massive effect. We still went through, but it wasn't like we knocked them out of the competition, but it was just like this triumphant moment where it kind of felt like we were elevating the status of the club yet again. You see someone that drew me to the club like Yaya Toure elevating the status of the club, helping them win 2 Premier Leagues and helping them get consistently into the Champions League. And then you have this different moment where Manchester City are again elevating themselves. We can beat the Barcelonas if we're drawn, early against them. It's one performance, but it was still like that 3-1 was just one of the best games I've ever seen. I rewatch it all the time just because I think it was a fantastic game, and that's really one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, like you say, a lot of Man City fans would say the Aguero moment. Going back onto that, what was that like? What was that like to witness live?
I mean, it was amazing. I just, you had sort of lost hope in the fact that we had won the title. Watching it from TV, I kind of knew things before the Manchester City fans who were there knew things. You just kind of thought it wasn't going to happen. And then this, moment of brilliance where it was just ecstasy, pure ecstasy. You get goosebumps talking about it right now. It's almost indescribable. It was amazing.
Like Martin Tyler said, you're never going to witness anything like that again, I don't think.
Exactly.
Obviously, you tipped Manchester United. Like you say, a lot of people are Manchester United fans. You tipped Manchester United to the title that day. There's obviously still that Manchester rivalry. But I want to know from a fan that's involved in the two clubs, what's your outlook on the Manchester derby? How do you see it?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it is an important thing. I was having a discussion yesterday with John McKenzie on my podcast talking about what it means to be a football fan and the different ways in which people enjoy the game. I look at it in more of a tactical or analytical standpoint. Yeah. That's the way that I choose to enjoy things, but that doesn't discredit someone that, doesn't like to look at it in those ways, and they go to the football ground and they like to sing and they like to look at things maybe a little bit less objectively. And I think within that medium you have, the juxtaposition of between someone like me, perhaps Stephen Howson, where like they won't say a kind word about a Manchester City player because it's just not, it feels wrong to them. And I'm more than happy to objectively analyze Manchester United or Liverpool or really anyone, because that's just the way I look at football. And maybe being an American and not having, this support ingrained within me since I was a kid, maybe that plays into that. But at the same time, I just like to look at things objectively. But going back to how I view the Manchester Derby, you can't get away from that. As much as I, tactically analyze things post or after the fact, watching the game, live, you can't help but, yell and scream and feel really disappointed. The funny thing is that we see all these narratives constructed in the media about certain games, the game against Chelsea or the game against Arsenal or the game against Liverpool, and at the end of the day it's 3 points, right? But it's 3 points that's like it puts a dagger in your heart if you didn't win it, and you feel so much better if you did. Specifically speaking about the Manchester Derby, it's one that I think we're going to see rise to even more prominence and possibly over, not just this upcoming year, but the next few years, because you have the two extremes of how people want to see football played. You have the Mourinho, which he classifies beautiful football as winning. That's his metric for good football. And then you have the opposite of that, which is Guardiola, that maybe speaks about football in a more philosophical sense, in the sense that he classifies beautiful football as playing beautiful football. So you have those two extremes in the Manchester Derby coming to fruition, and it's going to be great to watch. So I think especially over the next few years it's going to be explosive.
I think as a neutral as well, it's a really good game to watch whenever they play, and the rivalry is really great as well. But you mentioned Guardiola briefly. What have you made of him so far, sort of what he's done at the club and the way he's acted?
I really love him. I mean, I know that's like, it sounds so biased. Some Manchester City fans are honestly already sick of him, which I don't understand. It's only his first year, but from what I've seen, the biggest applauded that I can give him is that I haven't seen a game this season or this past season where the players look disinterested, and that was something that I saw consistently under maybe the last season of Manuel Pellegrini and even before that. Like, there are games that, during the season, maybe they weren't even that important, and the players just kind of looked disinterested. This season, and maybe it was also because, he needed to implement a certain style, and there was so much change at the club, and all these, different tactical things that he needed to put into place required such attention to detail and required such effort from the players. I never saw a moment where the players were devoid of trying, and I think that speaks, regardless, like I said, the different classes of football fans that look to things in different ways, regardless of what sect you belong to. That's something that you want to see. I guess it's more of a social contract for us to expect effort from them, but at the same time, they really don't have to try. They're being paid by the club and all that. But these guys, they seemed to really, really, really try this past season, although we kind of came up short definitely, from the club's targets and I think Guardiola's targets. I never saw a moment where we were devoid of trying. So I think if I'm going to pinpoint something, that's something that I would say I would give him credit for. But I'm happy with the progress the team has made so far. I think there are things that couldn't be accomplished with the crop of players that we had before, and that's not necessarily Guardiola's fault. Like I pointed out many times on different podcasts and different articles, a club that allows all of their senior or first team fullbacks to get to the age of 31, 32, 33, possibly even 34 at the same time, that's mismanagement, and there's nothing really that Guardiola can do about that. So people lament him for spending X amount of money this transfer window, and it is exorbitant. That money could be used in different ways, from a socio-cultural perspective. The Neymar fee, for example, $222 million could help a country, could help a city. Talking within the realm of football, I think there are things that needed to be solved from a Manchester City perspective, and they've gone out and done that.
Yeah. So you mentioned the progress under Guardiola. What do you make of the experiences you had with the club under previous management? So Mancini, Pellegrini. How do you think Guardiola differs from those managers?
Well, obviously he differs in a majorly in a tactical way. I think I was talking to someone on Twitter the other day, I'm a fellow Manchester City fan, and one of the biggest disappointments that I had under the last season of Pellegrini was that, in my eyes, Manchester City was sort of a counter-attacking team. I know they had a lot of possession metrics, because any team that strives to be within the top six, like, just by nature of your players being better, you have to have more possession. That's just how it's going to roll out. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be better than the opponent, so you have to possess the ball more. But in comparison from like Guardiola's possession system to Pellegrini's possession system, it's just light and day. That was one of the things that I was so disappointed in Pellegrini's last season, was that it seems like we weren't even able to recycle the ball effectively. And obviously under Guardiola, that's a huge difference. We can do so much with possession. So I think this coming season, with the added pieces and the progress of the current players who are still going to be part of the squad, players like Kevin De Bruyne, Sergio Aguero has come leaps and bounds. I mean, he was a player that you never talked about his passing, or you never talked about his off-ball work, really. And now we're seeing him counter-pressing effectively. We're seeing him link up play, incredibly well. And then also, the different guys within that central midfield. I think it's going to come together to create something really, really special.
I mean, you sort of mentioned briefly the summer signings this year. Obviously, the likes of Bernardo Silva, Mendy, Danilo. What do you make of the business that Man City have done so far this summer?
I think it's fantastic. Like I said, it's everything that we need. Mendy is someone that is not just a great defensive player, but also someone that can really provide that width. And, looking at Guardiola's, he structures the way the players run into the box in a very interesting way to sort of make it within his favor that a Manchester City player gets on the end of that. Looking at different training videos, and Mendy providing that service, providing those low crosses will be excellent. And then someone like Kyle Walker providing that athleticism and maybe coming inside to provide. We hear it time and time again, the inverted fullback role. I think he'll do pretty good there, as well as providing some width. And then I wrote something on Bernardo Silva a while ago, not comparing him to Messi, but talking about the similarity in the roles that they'll have under Guardiola, because I think he can utilize that space, with someone like Kyle Walker holding the width, and then other players taking up different spaces. The greatest thing about Bernardo Silva, and people talk about him as maybe a David Silva replacement, and he can be farther from that. I think David Silva is an exceptional passer and someone that really has that eye and ability for a ball, whereas Bernardo Silva is a dribbler. He's a central dribbler. He likes to cut inside, come in on his left foot, and create things through the center. So I think all those major deals are really going to help Manchester City in a number of ways, not just defensively but offensively, and that's all interconnected. So, do you
think they need to go out and get another player? I mean, I know Guardiola has come out and he said he wants more. Do you think they do need more? Or do you think they're done?
I think right now where the club are at, with the signings that we've made, it's fine. If Guardiola sees the need for more players, like I said, I'm always willing to divert to his judgment, because obviously he's Pep Guardiola. I think that where the club is at is fine. The only thing that people seem to pinpoint really is another perhaps central midfielder, because if Ilkay Gundogan gets another injury, and he seems to be pretty injury prone, unfortunately. I think we're good where we are. But another central midfielder would not be unwelcomed, I think.
One of the players on many fans' lips, I think, is Gabriel Jesus. Obviously, he came back into the side, got injured. But do you think he's going to be used as a central striker? How do you think he will be used? Because he's a good player.
I think he'll be used in a variety of ways. He could be central striker. He could be a little bit more towards the wing, but still inside. I don't think he has that he's not that type of player that has that, Raheem Sterling, Leroy Sané kind of pace to really thrive on the wing and live in that area. But I think he'll float between those areas. And watching him as a player in preseason, we didn't get to see that much of him last year, and I didn't get to see much of him previous to his time at Manchester City. I mean, he's an exceptional player. He strikes the ball incredibly well, and he's got a real tenacity and willingness to go at opponents. And I think the way that Guardiola structures the offensive system, it will allow him to thrive in those areas. He'll be attacking central defenders directly. He'll be attacking defenders directly, and I think he's going to do exceptionally well.
And you did mention him briefly, but where do you think that leaves Aguero? Because obviously Aguero was left out of the side at times for Jesus. Do you think he's going to be at the club still and play a big role, or do you think he'll leave?
No, I definitely think he'll be at the club. The thing that you're seeing right now with a lot of the teams in the Premier, well, maybe not a lot of the teams with the Premier League, but definitely specifically within the two Manchester clubs, is a preparation for a number of different problems. So they have multiple solutions for multiple problems. You see people talk about Matic's role at Manchester United and how he'll operate with someone like Herrera or Pogba, and that just I think they can structure their team a number of ways. They could go 4-3-3, they could go 3-5-2. The same thing with Manchester City. Pep Guardiola last season said that Sergio Aguero and Gabriel Jesus will play together. The only caveat to that is that they will not play together when Leroy Sané and Raheem Sterling are on the field. That just means that in different situations where we need different things, we need to stretch the space horizontally, or we need to stretch it vertically, or we need to do different things, attack different areas, attack different weak points of different teams. We have every solution for every problem that we could face, I think, with the likes of, like you mentioned, Jesus, Aguero, Sané, Sterling, Bernardo Silva, this is immense attacking talent, and I'm excluding Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva. So we have so much attacking power for all the things that we're going to face next season that it's just a matter of rotating. And if the players can live with that, which I think they should, because that's kind of what the modern game calls for, then you have a winning solution there.
I've just recorded a podcast on my predictions, and I've definitely got Man City to win the Premier League at least. But I want to know what do you think of the club's aspirations for this year, and maybe the next 5-10 years as well?
That's a good question, because we saw some comments recently, Pochettino and Antonio Conte going back and forth talking about the aspirations of the club, and I think some of those responses were a little bit conflated. You're also talking about guys that English is definitely not their first language, so you're taking some of their words out of context. Or some people are, not you, obviously, but and I think the meaning of that really comes from Manchester City. If they don't win a trophy this season, and not just a trophy but a big trophy, then that's a disappointment, and that's directly relates to the amount of money that they spent. That's the reality of the modern game, is that if you spend this much money, as much as someone like Manchester United or Manchester City have spent in the transfer window, then you expect results. It's a results-based game, unfortunately, and that's the way things have to be. So I hope Manchester City win the league. I want them to win the league. It's not the end-all, be-all for me. Would I like them to win the league? Obviously, but I think that's their aspirations, is that they're constantly seeking to elevate themselves as a club, and they know the only way to do that is through consistently winning trophies, and that's going to have to come this season. That's a reality.
And back to you, like you say, you live in America. You've not been over to see Manchester City. What are your aims? Are you hoping to come over soon to see them?
Yeah, I'll be probably heading over to London sometime before the end of the year. So hopefully I'll travel to Manchester, or hopefully they're playing a London club when I do come over. So I hope to see them. I've only seen one Premier League game, like I think I told you on Twitter. Swansea versus Crystal Palace towards the January or December. So that was a really fun experience for me, because Crystal Palace, I think, is one of the better fan atmospheres. Obviously, I've been yearning to see them live for a very long time, at least in a competitive setting. So
yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully it'll go well for you. I have one final question for you. Are you going to be a City fan until you die?
I think so, yeah. It's one of those things that you support them for so long, you watch every game for so long, and it just kind of becomes ingrained to you, especially me working in the football media industry. I think I just have to keep that, and hopefully, they'll continue to employ fantastic coaches and play fantastic football. But even then, I'll still have my love for City.
Yeah, let's hope so. So that wraps up the video. Thank you very much again, Nicó, for coming on. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciated you having me on, and it was fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. So where can people find you on Twitter if they want to see a bit more of you?
They can find me at Nicó_O Morales. You can find my writing there. I have a podcast. Going to be doing a lot more stuff as the season cranks up. So follow me there, and you'll see hopefully some good things.
Excellent. So thank you very much, Nicó. Very good, knowledgeable guy. Go check his stuff out. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. Check out White Lines F1 as well. Check out the League One podcast, our partners over there. Good bunch of lads, knowledgeable guys as well. Hope you did enjoy it. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.